is about the military campaign against Islamic forces of the Syrian Free Army. What is your estimate of that campaign? Does it hold any hopes? Earlier you said that opposition should help the regime of Bashar al-Assad to fight terrorism. And the second question, recent news emerged that Russia is beefing up its military deliveries to Syria. I didn't quite understand the first question. Who is opposing Free Syrian Army? No, I was talking that there is a military campaign underway against the Islamist groups, and the Free Syrian Army is engaged in those combat operations. To what extent it is positive?
Regarding the supplies of armaments, I'm not going to reiterate our position. We have commented on it on many occasions. We are not supplying anything that is forbidden to Syria, and we are not supplying anything that could destabilize the situation there. Regarding the situation around the armed opposition, I believe it is a bit more complex than the picture you have presented right now. As far as I understand, I believe the part of the Free Syrian Army and part of many other groupings have become the composition of the Islamic Front, which consists of 10 or 20 smaller groupings. And a number of these groupings do not differ a lot from Jabhat al-Nusra and in many other extremist and terrorist structures. The gravest and atrocious threat on the ground is the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, which is active not only in the Syrian Arab Republic but also in many other countries, including and particularly in Iraq. And the Islamic Front is fighting against this very structure. Jabhat al-Nusra, which is also on the list of terrorist organizations created by many countries, but as we can judge by the media news, it supports the Islamic Front, the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, and sometimes it is against it. By the way, militants are coming from one structure into the other, depending on the conditions of their service, so to say, there. And the army has been very weakened recently, and we're concerned about that because all the structures, the state of Islamic State of Iraq and Levant and Jabhat al-Nusra, are fighting against terrorism because they are pursuing the same very ideology, but they are not fighting against terrorism as a phenomenon. They are fighting against each other in order to gain control on the ground. They are fighting for power, frankly speaking. You have said that the Free Syrian Army should have helped the government in its fight against terrorism, but it's not how it was put forth in Lochern, for example, at the G8 summit. The British Premier David Cameron, the president in the G8 at that time, proposed to state in the Geneva communique to reflect the call to combine efforts to remove extremism and terrorism on the ground. All leaders supported this call and believe that this call is relevant as never before. Thank you very much. Geneva communique provides for the transitional governing body in Syria. What do you think about this body? What will it be composed of? What will be the timeline? Who should it report to? And will it be accompanied by any international assistance? Thank you. Well, you know, it is not up to me to decide it. It is up to the Syrians to make a decision on this issue. And according to the Geneva communique, And according to our common position, this transitional body, this transitional authority would be useful to achieve agreement on all the issues regarding the future public order and state order in Syria. It will be useful for the adoption of laws, which will be agreed upon, constitutional reforms, if needed, elections. And the key for the understanding of the approaches among participants of the Geneva Communique is the statement that the agreements on the establishment of this transitional body should be reached based on the mutual consent on both sides, on the government and the opposition. We cannot predetermine the details of this arrangement. We want peace to prevail in Syria. We want Syria to be sovereign, free from terrorism. We want to provide for the equality of ethnic and confessional groups in Syria. These are the principles the international community is promoting. And actually, they are universal. They can be applicable to any crisis situation. And how these principles will be implemented, what the deadline of this transitional authority be, what personalities will be involved in the process, is up to the Syrians to agree upon. That is the purpose of the Russian and American initiative. And we will hope that after tomorrow's ceremonial opening, these negotiations will start. Please.